Let's take a look at some of the latest campaign finance news in our segment we call Money Bombs and War Chests. And we start with Bernie Sanders. Last week he announced he was running for president, and he had this to say about who'd he be taking donations from.
I'm not going to get money from the Koch brothers, and I'm not going to get money from billionaires. I'm going to have to raise my campaign contributions through BernieSanders.com, small individual contributions. That's how I'm going to do it. But I seriously wonder, and it's not just Bernie Sanders, I wonder now, in this day and age, whether it is possible for any candidate who is not a billionaire or who is not beholden to the billionaire class to be able to run successful campaigns.
We need more candidates talking about themselves in the third person. Senator Sanders may not be taking it from the rich, but he is certainly raising funds, more than $1.5 million in donations from 35,000 donors during his first day of his presidential candidacy. For those of us who are not good at math, including myself, that averages out to about $43 per donor. Hillary Clinton is expected to have 3 fundraising events in Washington this week. Between 110 and 170 people are expected to attend the events for the price of around $2,700 per plate. That gives Clinton the potential to raise over $1.3 million just this week. Marco Rubio will also be fundraising in Washington on Thursday, the event at the home of lobbyist Wayne Berman. Guests will be donating the maximum allowed to a declared candidate that should net Rubio around $200,000 for this event. And Ben Carson has now announced his candidacy for the U.S. president, and he won't be doing it all by himself or out of his own pocket. Dr. Carson has a super PAC that's been pushing him to run and has collected $13.5 million in less than 2 years. Carson's exploratory committee also collected over $2 million in its first month of fundraising. Jeb Bush may be the strongest fundraiser for the GOP, but who has the potential to come in second in the fundraising race? Well, that could be Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker. Walker recently received campaign donations from almost half of the country's top 250 Republican donors during his campaign for governor. By comparison, only 30% of those donors gave to Marco Rubio and 20% gave to Ted Cruz. Scott Walker appeals to many Republican constituencies and perhaps has the best potential to give Jeb Bush a run at taking in the maximum amount of donations. Wisconsin's governor will also be on the other side of Lake Michigan next week for fundraising events in Detroit, where Ben Carson announced his presidency today.
I'm still wrapping my brain around the $2,700 a plate. Do you think they get like a special party favor? I want to know what's on the menu.
Well, it's not what's on the menu, it's what's being said by the candidates. And this is an opportunity. A lot of times these events are private.
Better be a good meal, though.
And you get to hear the candidates say things that won't necessarily be said on the campaign trail, as we saw last cycle with Mitt Romney and his 47% comment. These events are supposed to be behind closed doors, supposed to give donors an opportunity to hear a different side from the candidate, but not always the side the candidate wants to put out there on the campaign trail.
Well, I bet it won't be grilled cheese and tomato soup or something like that.
Let's hope not, unless it's like very fancy grilled cheese and tomato soup.
With Gruyere.
Yes, Gruyere cheese.
Well, another story we've been following, the State Department's refusal to allow an Iraqi nun to come to Washington to talk about the persecution of Christians. Their fear she won't go back. One of her strongest defenders, former Congressman Frank Wolf, spoke with our very own Newsmax Prime host, J.D. Hayworth.
She's a godly woman. She actually speaks Aramaic, the same language as Jesus. Something is out of control either in the White House or in the State Department. I think this thing is going to be okay because I think they're getting so much pressure. I appreciate what Johnny Moore has done, and the different groups have come together to advocate. But some low-level official in the State Department, in Washington, and in Iraq has denied it. And now that Congress wants to talk to her, many people in the media, I would think you'd want to have her on, but she really wants to tell the story. You know, more biblical activity took place in Iraq than any other country of the world other than Israel. And she was from Mosul. Mosul, Nineveh Plains, where the tomb of Jonah was blown up. So I appreciate so many people working. I think eventually, in the next couple of days, the administration is going to say, okay, we made a mistake, we're going to let her in.
Now you heard it, this story obviously getting a lot of attention, especially on our website, but this nun has been trying to come to our country and seek refuge, and they're not allowing her.
It's just one of those cases that stands out as being so odd. When you look at the facts of the case, why this woman would not be allowed into this country, really a head-scratcher.
Some of the other stories that are trending on our website right now, New York Senate Leader Skelos The son charged with corruption.
Dean Skelos. And his son,
Skelos, yes, there we go. Federal authorities charged New York State Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos and his son on Monday with engaging in a corruption scheme and the latest of a string of criminal cases against politicians in the state's capital of Albany.
Also, authorities are investigating whether the Islamic State may have been linked to those attacks last night at a Texas free speech event just outside of Dallas after a trail of social media messages from before the event were discovered and tied to the attackers. Also, Mike Huckabee going to go ahead and throw his hat in the ring, we think, on Tuesday. There is a campaign announcement scheduled for 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Launching his campaign as the other man from Hope, Arkansas, of course, in reference to former President Bill Clinton, also from the same hometown.
Coming up here on Newsmax Now, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge welcomed Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, and Twitter definitely took notice. That and other stories that are trending on social media, all coming up when Newsmax Now returns.